My name is Maya. I am 32 years old, and for the past 7 years, I have operated a boutique event production and hospitality firm. 6 hours ago, on a crisp Saturday evening, I stood in the grand reception hall of the Oak Ridge estate. 300 guests in black tie attire were sipping vintage champagne beneath 12 crystal chandeliers. In the center of the room, my younger sister, Lauren, was laughing in a 5-figure designer gown, surrounded by photographers capturing every angle of what my mother repeatedly called the wedding of the century. Then my father appeared beside my table. He did not ask how my trip had been. He did not tell me I looked nice in my emerald silk dress. Instead, he slid an unsealed embossed envelope directly onto my bread plate. Inside was an itemized master invoice from the venue management team totaling $84,600, marked with a bold red stamp. Final settlement due before reception service. My father leaned down, placing both hands flat on the damask tablecloth, and spoke in a cold, low whisper loud enough for the entire table of cousins to freeze. Lauren's father-in-law decided this morning that he is only covering the floral arrangements. The venue director is standing by the kitchen doors waiting for payment. You run a corporate events firm, Maya. You write this check right now, or you take your coat and get out of this room. Pay for her venue, or leave. You owe this family that much. I looked down at the invoice. I looked up at my father's face, tight with 20 years of unchecked entitlement. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I took a small sip of ice water, folded my cloth napkin, and placed it neatly over my plate. If those are the terms, Dad, I said quietly, then I will leave. My father smiled smugly, thinking he had won, assuming I would panic, pull out my corporate card, and cave under the pressure of 300 watching relatives. What my father completely forgot, and what the head catering director was about to inform him 75 seconds later, was that the venue hall was not the only contract signed for that evening. The $84,000 venue fee was for 4 empty walls and chandelier power. The 7-course plated French dinner, the top-shelf liquor distribution, the 50-member waitstaff, and the 4-tier imported pastry spread were tied to a separate, private catering agreement. An agreement signed, personally guaranteed, and fully prepaid in advance under my corporate account. And as I walked toward the valet station, I canceled the catering execution with a single phone call. To understand why my father thought he could demand $84,000 from me during my sister's dessert hour, you have to go back to how our family operated for 3 decades. In the Vance household, there was one golden rule: Lauren gets the spotlight, and Maya pays for the electricity. Lauren was 2 years younger than me. From childhood, she was groomed to be the social crown jewel of the family. If Lauren showed a passing interest in ballet, my parents hired private instructors from the state capitol. If Lauren wanted a luxury sedan for her 16th birthday, my father traded in his own retirement savings to buy it. Whenever Lauren wanted something extravagant, my parents treated it as an urgent emergency that everyone in the family was obligated to solve. I was the invisible daughter. I was the reliable one. The child who never asked for new clothes, who maintained a straight-A average while working behind the counter of a local bakery at 15, and who received a full academic scholarship to study business finance and hospitality operations. When I graduated top of my class from university, my parents skipped the commencement ceremony because Lauren had an audition for a reality television show 3 hours away. My mother called me from a highway rest stop and said, "Maya, you are so capable on your own. Lauren needs our emotional support today. You understand, don't you?" I did understand. I understood that my parents loved the fantasy of who Lauren could be far more than they loved the reality of who I actually was. After college, I did not wait for their approval. I started as a junior banquet coordinator at a high-end luxury hotel chain. I worked 14-hour shifts on my feet, learning vendor contracts, supplier negotiations, culinary pricing, and institutional logistics. At 26, I launched my own event management firm, Apex Culinary and Hospitality Group. For 6 grueling years, I built the company from zero. I slept on an air mattress in a tiny back office behind our commercial prep kitchen. I skipped holidays, worked through birthdays, and reinvested every single dollar back into vendor licenses, refrigerated transport vans, and master hospitality contracts. By the time I turned 32, Apex Group was managing multi-million-dollar corporate galas, private celebrity estates, and elite society functions across 3 states. Then came the announcement of Lauren's engagement. Lauren managed to get engaged to Harrison, the eldest son of a wealthy regional real estate developer. From day one, Lauren and my mother became obsessed with creating the illusion that our family came from old, generational wealth. They booked the Oak Ridge estate, the most expensive historic venue in the state. They hired a celebrity florist, booked a 12-piece brass orchestra, and ordered imported Italian letterpress invitations. 6 months before the wedding, my mother called me in a state of absolute hysteria. Maya, the executive chef at Oak Ridge, is quoting $62,000 for a basic banquet dinner, my mother whined. Harrison's family is expecting 5-star French cuisine, prime dry-aged tenderloin, and vintage wine pairings. The venue's default menu looks like cheap conference food. You have master accounts with the best gourmet culinary providers in the state. You have to handle the food for your sister's big day. I hesitated. I remembered 10 years of neglect. But I also remembered the promise I made to myself to keep business strictly professional. Mom, I told her, I can provide my premier catering team, our executive head chef, our private waitstaff, and our exclusive vintage wine distribution. But food, staffing, transport, and top-tier ingredients cost real money. The commercial rate for a 300-person gala at that level is $45,000. I will do it at absolute cost, $30,000. You and Dad need to sign the invoice. My mother waved it away immediately over the speakerphone. Of course, Maya. We will handle the balance before the wedding week. Just secure the dates with your suppliers. You know how important this is for your sister's social standing. Against my better judgment, I trusted her word. I drafted the contract through Apex Group, locked in the master culinary suppliers, reserved 25 servers and 4 certified bartenders, and paid the deposits directly out of my company's operating accounts. As the wedding day approached, I sent 4 separate reminder invoices to my father's email. He ignored the first 3. On the 4th, he sent back a 1-line reply. We will settle everything on the night of the event. Focus on making sure your sister is happy. When I arrived at Oak Ridge Estate at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, the chaos was already brewing behind the scenes. The venue director, a sharp-eyed woman named Evelyn, pulled me aside in the stone courtyard. Ms. Vance, your father promised to wire the remaining $84,000 facility and ballroom rental balance by 12 noon today, Evelyn whispered. The bank transfer never arrived. Your father is claiming that Harrison's family is covering it, but Harrison's father just told me at the altar that he never agreed to touch the venue rental fees. If this balance isn't settled before reception service begins at 7 o'clock, we are locking the auxiliary power to the ballroom. I walked into the bridal suite where my sister was touching up her makeup while 2 videographers filmed her reflection in a gold-framed mirror. Lauren, I said gently. Dad hasn't paid the venue director. The estate balance is past due. Lauren didn't even turn around. She checked her lip gloss in the glass, laughed softly, and said, Maya, please do not bring your stressful corporate energy into my bridal suite. Dad said you make 6 figures managing parties for rich people. Just handle it. If Harrison's family sees the lights flicker, you will ruin my entire marriage before it even starts. My mother walked in, holding a steaming garment bag, and glared at me. Maya, stop harassing your sister on her special day. Go down to the kitchen and make sure the tenderloin is cooked properly. That is what you are here for. I walked out of the suite. I did not get angry. I walked down to the commercial staging area behind the ballroom where my executive chef, Marco, and 18 staff members were preparing appetizers, organizing 60 bottles of champagne, and firing the ovens for the main dinner courses. Chef, I said quietly, keep everything on hold until my final confirmation. Do not plate a single entree until I give you the green light. Marco looked at me, saw the calm expression on my face, and nodded. Understood, Maya. At 6:45, the ceremony concluded. 300 guests filed into the breathtaking ballroom, admiring the towering floral centerpieces, the crystal glassware, and the hand-printed menus bearing my company's gold monogram seal at each place setting. My father took his seat at the head family table, radiating self-importance as guests came over to shake his hand and congratulate him on hosting such a lavish evening. Then he walked over to table 12, where I was sitting quietly beside two distant cousins. He reached into his breast pocket, pulled out the red-stamped envelope, and dropped it onto my bread plate. Pay for her venue, or leave, he said. You owe us that much. The silence at our table was deafening. My cousins looked away in embarrassment. I looked up at my father. Dad, this bill is $84,000. You signed the venue contract 8 months ago. You also haven't paid the $30,000 you promised for the catering services I provided. My father sneered, leaning in closer. You think you're a big-shot CEO? You built that business using our family name. You owe your sister this wedding. If you don't pay the venue management right now, you are a disgrace to this family, and you have no business sitting in this room. Either pull out your card or get out. I didn't blink. I didn't cry. I picked up my purse, slid my emerald silk coat over my shoulders, and stood up. I choose to leave, I said. My father smirked, believing I would break down the moment I reached the foyer. He turned his back and walked back to the head table, raising his champagne glass to toast the groom's family. I walked through the double mahogany doors into the grand foyer, pulled out my smartphone, and dialed Marco's direct extension in the estate prep kitchen. Marco, I said, my voice completely steady. Execute Protocol 0. Marco didn't ask questions. All staff and supplies? Every plate, every bottle, every server. Pack the trucks immediately. We are off-site in 10 minutes. I walked out to the valet stand, handed the attendant my ticket, and waited on the stone steps under the evening sky. Inside the kitchen, Marco gave the command. Within 90 seconds, 25 waitstaff members began clearing the bread baskets and water carafes from the tables. In the staging area, the kitchen crew turned off the commercial warming ovens. The 300 prime dry-aged beef tenderloins were repacked into temperature-controlled travel cambros. The 60 crates of premier vintage wine and imported French champagne were recrated and loaded directly into the 2 Apex refrigerated trucks parked at the service dock. The custom 4-tier imported pastry spread was boxed and wheeled out the back exit. At 7:15, the master of ceremonies took the stage, tapped his microphone, and announced with a booming smile, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Oak Ridge Estate and the Vance family are proud to present tonight's 7-course culinary journey." The background music swelled. Guests sat back in their chairs, waiting for the first course of smoked salmon and roasted beet salad to arrive. 5 minutes passed. Nothing came out of the kitchen doors. 10 minutes passed. The room grew restless. Guests began looking around, noticing that every single server, bartender, and busser had vanished from the ballroom floor. My father stood up, annoyed, and marched through the service doors into the kitchen, shouting, "Where is the dinner service? The guests are waiting." He burst through the swinging doors and stopped dead in his tracks. The kitchen was dark. The ovens were cold. The counters were scrubbed clean. The only person standing in the middle of the empty commercial kitchen was Evelyn, the venue director, holding a clipboard and looking at a signed legal notice. "Where is the food?" my father roared, his face turning bright red. "Where are the servers? Where is the champagne?" Evelyn looked at him with icy professionalism. "Mr. Vance, the catering contract, the culinary staff, the liquor distribution license, and the entire food supply for tonight's event were owned and managed by Apex Hospitality Group. 5 minutes ago, the managing partner, Maya Vance, formally terminated the service contract due to client breach of payment." My father gasped for air like a fish out of water. "What?" She can't do that. She's the bride's sister. She is the sole legal signatory on the catering agreement, Evelyn replied smoothly. And because she cancelled the service, she took her food, her staff, and her liquor with her. Furthermore, Mr. Vance, since it is now past 7 o'clock and you still have not paid the $84,000 venue rental fee to the estate, I am executing our statutory breach protocol. Evelyn reached over to the master control panel on the kitchen wall. Inside the grand ballroom, the 12 crystal chandeliers suddenly powered down. The warm, golden ambient lighting disappeared, replaced by the dim, harsh fluorescent emergency lights along the baseboards. The sound system clicked off mid-song. The air conditioning units hummed to a halt. Panic tore through the reception room. Lauren jumped to her feet, screaming as her designer gown dragged against the floor. Harrison's parents stood up in utter disgust. Harrison's father, a prominent regional businessman, marched over to my father as he stumbled out of the dark kitchen. "What the hell is the meaning of this, Vance?" Harrison's father demanded, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "There is no food. There is no staff. There is no power. Did you invite 300 of my business associates to sit in a dark, starving room?" My mother was sobbing hysterically at the head table, her makeup running down her cheeks. "George, fix this. Call Maya. Tell her to bring the food back." My father pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Sitting in the comfortable leather seat of my car at a quiet cafe 4 miles down the road, I watched my phone light up on the table. Incoming call. Dad. I took a slow sip of hot tea and let it ring. Incoming call. Mom. I declined the call. Incoming call. Lauren. I declined the call. Then came a flood of text messages. Dad, Maya, please. The entire ballroom is dark. Harrison's family is threatening to call off the marriage. The guests are leaving. Bring the catering back. I will pay you whatever you want. Mom, Maya, how could you do this to your own sister? You have ruined her life. 300 people are walking out. Have some mercy. Lauren, I hate you. Everyone is leaving. Harrison's dad is taking him home. Pick up the phone. I did not reply to a single message. I opened my email, drafted a formal notice of contract cancellation due to non-payment, attached the original unpaid $30,000 invoices, and sent copies directly to my father, my mother, and the venue management portal. By 8 o'clock, the historic Oak Ridge estate was completely deserted. Guests had left in droves, driving down the dark driveway to find nearby diners and fast food restaurants in their tuxedos and evening gowns. Harrison's family had ordered their private cars, taken Harrison with them, and left my parents and Lauren standing alone in an unheated, unlit banquet hall surrounded by empty tables and wilting flowers. Lauren's marriage was annulled 3 weeks later before the legal paperwork was even finalized. Harrison's father refused to let his family be associated with people who attempted to pull off a fraudulent society wedding using stolen credit and empty promises. My parents were sued by Oak Ridge Estate for the unpaid $84,000 venue cancellation penalty. My father was forced to take out a second mortgage on his home to settle the court judgment and avoid bankruptcy. Over the last 6 months, my relatives tried to tell the family that I went too far. They said, "Maya, you should have just been the bigger person. You ruined a wedding." To which I always reply with the exact same calm truth. I did not ruin a wedding. I simply stopped subsidizing their entitlement. I gave them the exact choice they demanded from me. My father told me to pay $84,000 for a party I did not throw or leave. I respected his boundary. I left. And when I walked out the door, I took my labor, my resources, my self-respect, and my business with me. People will spend years taking your kindness for weakness. They will expect you to finance their illusions, carry their burdens, and absorb their insults, all while demanding that you stay silent in the name of family loyalty. Never let anyone use your hard work to elevate themselves while treating you like a servant at their table. If someone hands you an ultimatum designed to humiliate you, do not beg. Do not scream. Take your coat, take your dignity, and let them face the consequences of an empty room. If you were in my position, would you have paid the venue bill to protect the family peace, or would you have walked out with the catering contract just like I did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.